Good evening, and welcome to another fabulous episode of In the Library of Graphic Literature with your host, Wallace Ryan, of course. And I'm Luna.
There she is. And I'm Wallace, and I'm sporting a slightly new do.
Yes, done by me.
Yeah, I think
I'm not sure if we've showed this off yet, but I've put dye in it. Put your head down. There's like some black in there, and I think it's killer.
Yeah.
It's
and
perfect.
I'm trying for one of those thin mustaches, so pay attention week to week and you'll see it more or less appear, right?
You can't keep secrets for life yet.
Oh, okay. Well, forget what I just said. Let's get right on to the topic of the day.
What is the topic of the day?
The topic of the day, see now I don't have any new comics, is Artless comics, because Fantagraphics recently they've been putting out a series of Artless comics. Artless was what Marvel was in the 50s, from 51 to 61, and then they changed the name to Marvel. But Artless, it was kind of an interesting company, mainly because Stan Lee's uncle Martin Goodman was copying anything that would come out. So in some ways there was some interesting stuff. But he had good people and a lot of people who ended up in Marvel in later years. But so it was kind of interesting. Anyway.
Get to it.
Fantagraphics recently started their basically Artless Comics library, which is funny because some of the best books, and they're right here, some of the best books coming out these days are old Artless comics, but they're coming out from Fantagraphics. So, but anyway, before we get to them, this is sort of a quick look at some of the earlier books before we go into the Fantagraphics ones. These were the famous monster ones, like Strange Tales and all that, and they all had names like that Gorgal or Fin Fang Foom or even Groot. So, and he was just your average monster. Like all the stories were more or less kind of the same. Monster comes in and some scientist or someone figures out how to turn the tide on them, but that person is always sort of frowned upon. Until it turns out that they were right. So, it's kind of a formula that worked for 10 years. Anyway, this is actually the Monster Bus, as they call it. This is just all Jack Kirby. There was a 2-volume set that he did of all his Artless stuff, all his monster ones. And this is volume 1. Volume 2 is above us, but I figured this was good enough for that. Oh, I should show people, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
But yeah, classic. Oh, there we go. Classic Jack Kirby. But I mean, I love the art from back then, and I love the covers. Look, I mean, like, the covers were very dramatic. I'll give them that, right? And like I say, generally the art was very good. Because they had Ditko too. And great monsters. I mean, no one could do monsters like Kirby or Ditko. Ditko also did cool monsters. Whoops. Next up was from the Marvel Masterworks family. You see all the silver colored volumes there, sort of modern ones. So they did do an Artless version of Marvel Masterworks. Didn't last long, but compared to the others. But quite a few came out, and this is actually one of my favorites because it has the Black Knight and the Yellow Claw. Black Knight done. The best thing about that was they were done by that guy Joe Manley, who tragically was killed in the New York City subway. Otherwise, he would have been one of Marvel's great artists coming into the 60s. Actually, there's a whole book I got later on of his stuff. But he did a cool Black Knight. And then, of course, the Kirby with the Yellow Claw was all, sort of borderline racist. But I mean, hey, it was the 50s, right? Everyone was after everyone else. Oh, and I was like that. Start of the story. Captured. But that Yellow Claw, he was mean. Anyway, actually, from that series, I do believe there is a character who is one of the first real characters of what turns out to be the Marvel Age of comics in the 60s. Came out in that series. Anyway, speaking of Joe Manley, who we were tragically died in the New York City subway. This is now the Atlas library. They're doing 2 editions. One is an artist edition, which they'll do a big size and do just all the best of someone's comics, and the other ones are more or less just archive editions of Atlas library. But I like these because they're, they're nice and big. The artwork is huge in them.
I think you're getting too warm there, Pops.
I am. Here we go. So this is Joe Manley. Very, very interesting comic book artist. I mean, I think he could have been great at Iron Man, or oh God, there was a couple he would have probably been good at. Oh, Ringo Kid. He was well known for that. Anyway, a great. Actually, hang on a second. Let me take off my coat here, so I'm not. It's a bit warm here in the studio. It's actually quite warm out tonight. Okay, there. Anyway, to continue on, we have then Adventures into Terror. Da-da-da-da-da. More things with the likes of Gene Colan, Gene the Dean, George Tuska, Don Rico, Joe Manley again, Basil Wolverton, and all kinds of people. Anyway, this one's pretty good. Once again, it's those classic 50s horror. I mean, it's not like horror comics are today. These are kind of like mild 50s parent-approved horror comics.
I see.
All right. It's funny because it reminds me of watching Dragnet and stuff like that, because there's a lot of themes that go throughout all these comics. One thing is the husbands and wives are always trying to kill each other. Plotting each other's murder, stuff like that, and several different themes that run throughout. Anyway, on to the next volume of the Atlas Library. This is Venus. Now, the cool thing about this is that Marvel had actually put out this volume of Venus many years ago, but this had Venus 1 to 9, and when Fantagraphics decided to put this out, they went from 10 on. So, which was kind of good, because I guess they assumed that whoever was buying this already had the other volume, which is kind of neat. You don't see that attention to detail. And it's just a weird comic strip with Venus. She's some sort of weird goddess thing. But I mean, some of the art was kind of cool. Oh, and of course the ads are.
Oh, yes. Cool.
I love the ads. oh yeah. Oh, getting sleepy.
I'm very sleepy. I didn't sleep well last night.
I know.
Then I went for another hike today.
I know, on top of all that. Well, we only got a couple books left, and then you're done for the day. It's pretty good, isn't it? But to do, thank you for your service. And anyway, the next Atlas Comics Library, number 3, In the Days of the Rockets. And this is once again just collections from across 5 issues of Space Squadron and one of Space Worlds. George Tuska, Werner Roth, who did that Venus one, and just a lot of people who eventually would end up working for Marvel. But I kind of like when I was a kid, I never liked 50s artwork. I always thought that it was bad or whatever, but as I got older, I sort of gained a kind of love for it, because it is so bizarre, right? Oh, reduce. So yeah, this one, I mean, it's good enough. And this one, of course, has the ads. Oh look, motorcade bargain, 50 cars for $1.
Yeah.
And they're probably like all plastic or something like that. Anyway, this is let's just show. There's a couple of Basil Wolverton, who's one of the more unusual people in comics. I can't remember if it was in this one. But anyway, these Atlas Library from Fantagraphics, beautiful printing. Love the covers, design, everything. Absolutely fabulous. And like I say, once again, it's funny that some of the best comics collections of older materials is Fantagraphics, and they're just reprinting classic Marvel comics. What the heck is going on here, I ask you? What the heck is going on? Anyway, on to one of my favorites, actually. Volume 1 of War Comics. This has... How many issues? This has never before collected run of the first 8 issues of War Comics. And for this they have Gene the Dean Colan, Russ Heath, also another famous artist, Joe Manley, David Berg, who ended up with Mad Magazine, and Mike Sikowski, and Peter Morisi, who ended up being a cop later on in life, I do believe. Hey, oh my God, what have you done with Luna? Sorry. Anyway, so there's... I love this cover, by the way. This I think it's a great cover. This is actually not a bad war comic. Some great art. You know, the standard war type of stories. War is hell, people are being killed for no reason, yada yada yada. But, you know, nicely done. Now, we only have 3 left. These are more recent anyway. This is one of the bigger ones again, the Artless. I mean, jeez, the artist edition. Feel that? Seriously.
Yeah.
It's much heavier than it looks. And this is one of my favorite artists, Al Williamson. I mean, this guy was he was a gentleman of the brush. He was one of these really elegant type of artists. Like you look at, like very realistic. He did work a lot in comic strips too, besides comics. But it was absolutely stunningly beautiful artwork, alright? Let's go more to later on there. Like highly detailed. Very nicely done. But yeah, he was one of those, oh yeah, like that. You know, good, just good, solid drawing. And there are a lot of artists who basically emulated this guy, copied him for many years, right? Because he was considered, you know, his poses, everything were so well done that of course people would rip them off. But yeah, amazing artist. As a matter of fact, there's a comic strip. I think it was either X9. No, I think it is X9. He does with. Hang on a second. Let me have a look. Walk across here. Yeah, X9. Secret Agent Corrigan from the 60s, which was pretty cool. Anyway, this one's really cool. Beautiful drawing. It's the type of thing I just like looking at this guy's art. Sometimes I wouldn't even bother reading some of the stories. The art is so good. Oh, here's one I finished the other day. The Tower of Shadows, which we featured recently. And this, of course, has Gene the Dean Colan once again in it. Steranko, Neil Adams, and the Steranko one is the award-winning one. And it's funny enough, the very first story in the very first issue, and then it kind of went downhill from there. But this is a very, very famous story when it comes to graphic literature and comic book design. This was him at his height. This is just before he got out of comics. The last comic he did was actually for heavy metal. Have you ever seen a sci-fi movie, Outland? It was from the 70s or 80s. Anyway, he did a adaptation of it for heavy metal. It's never been reprinted. But it was pretty good. But he hasn't done any real comics since then. Which is kind of weird. He was a guy I met at a convention. He was yelling at someone when I approached him, right? But for good reason. Anyway, this is actually one of my favorite books this year. Believe it or not. And last but not least, now I'm waiting on another one to come, but I did get this one in between waiting. And I'm almost finished this one, actually.
Police Action.
Police Action. Da-da-da-da. This has, Joe Manley, Gene the Dean, Bob Powell, Werner Roth, some of the usual suspects. Don Heck, who was one of the more disrespected artists for some reason, but I kind of liked his art style. It was kind of campy and weird, but his earlier stuff was really, really nicely done. I'll give him that much. These are your atypical police story. Police hunt down escaped criminals. There's a lot of escaped criminals in this series. I find is one of the themes that goes through a lot of it, right? But yeah, once again, beautiful art. This whole series, it's just amazing that here in 2025, the best comics, and really, Fantagraphics got a couple of nominations. What was it? The Web of Horror that I got recently. That's been nominated for an Eisner, and they usually do clean up because they do great comics. Anyway.
I think we should go.
Yeah, it's starting to get really warm here in the studio, and we can only take so much. We'll be back next week, maybe with new stuff. Probably not, but we'll have a good show for you. Okay, thanks for having us over. Bye. Run.